Okay, so we're going to start in a couple of seconds. So I hope everyone can hear me. If you can, please say yes or thumbs up in the chat so I know that you can hear me before we get started.
Hey, you loud and clear.
Hey!
Last time I saw you at Tinapa.
Sorry?
Last time I saw you was at Tinapa.
Okay, can you mute yourself because we're about to start now. Just mute yourself and chat in the chat. Okay. Okay, so it's 12 o'clock, so we're going to start. Okay, so hello everyone. Hello and welcome to our Move to Canada and Thrive Masterclass. So before we get started, I just want you to say hello in the chat and tell us where it is you're calling in from. And one more thing, just look outside your window and tell me what you can see outside your window, because we're all calling from different locations. So just say hello, where you're calling from and what you can see outside your window in the chat. I see a hello, but I don't see where you're calling in from. Put in the chat to everyone where it is you're calling in from.
Hello.
Mute yourself. Okay. From Lagos, Kemi from Lagos. Lagos. I have a lot of people from Lagos. Clear skies in Lagos. Okay, that's great. Okay. You can see a tree outside your window. Lucky you. All I see here is just construction. Hi, Emmanuel from Accra. Okay. Great, so that's awesome. So we're going to get started because we only have 60 minutes and we really want to keep to time and make sure that we have enough time for you to ask whatever questions it is that you have. So before we get started, some of you here, maybe you want to move to Canada, no idea where to get started, you're wondering what your options are, you're in the right place. Or maybe you've even tried to apply on your own. Maybe you've done your express entry or you've done your IELTS, but you just don't have enough points and you're stuck in the pool. You've been in the pool for a couple of years and you don't know what to do next. Great, you're welcome to be here as well. Or maybe you paid one of those agents, those agents that promise you, oh, we'll get you a work permit within 2 weeks. You've paid them, your money is gone, and now you're at a loss. You don't know where to get started from. Great. Or maybe you're way ahead of that curve where you've applied for your permanent residency, you've gotten your COPR, and now you're wondering, okay, when I get to Canada, what am I going to do for work? Am I going to have to give up everything that I have and have to start from scratch? Great. We're going to be covering all of that today. So here are a few things that we promised to deliver on today. We'll walk through your options to come to Canada, so you have a good understanding of not all, but we'll talk about the main one option for you to come to Canada. We'll also talk about things that you need to do to prepare, because we know that moving is one thing, but thriving in Canada is another different ballgame. So we'll be talking about how you can move as well as how you can thrive here in Canada. And then what does the job market look like? What jobs are thriving here? And how do you get started without having to start from scratch? So those are the few things that we're going to be going through today. So a bit about myself. So my name is Joan Wosu, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the founder of My Soft Landing. I founded it 3 years ago. And it was just as a result of my own experience and my journey to Canada. So I moved here to Canada 5 years ago, and I saw that there was a gap. There was a gap between people coming in and people actually knowing what to do to integrate into the system. So I created this business to really, really help people transition and make it seamless for you to, leave your great life in Nigeria and move to an even greater life here in Canada, and not having to suffer and start from the scratch like most people say. So that's a bit about me. I'm also an author, I'm a speaker, I'm also a consultant and a business coach. But that's enough about me. So just some house rules before we get started. Please mute yourself because there's a lot of people on the call. So please stay muted for now. We will keep all the questions and answers to the end, just because we have a lot of material that we want to cover. So keep your questions to the end. At the end, we'll let you know exactly when you can type your questions in the chat, just so that everyone is not trying to speak at the same time. If you're able to stay to the end, we do have a great surprise for you. So stick with us 60 minutes and we have a surprise package for you. So we're going to get started. And the first speaker today is Buki. Buki is the founder of the Visa Assistant. She's an immigration consultant right here in Canada. She also went through the same process of immigrating here. So she's very, very well versed and has helped a lot of people make that transition to come to Canada. So Buki is going to take over now, and she's going to be sharing some great material with you. So stay tuned and enjoy. Buki, can you hear?
Hi, I can hear you. I'm just trying to share my screen. Just a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Joan. Hi, guys. Can you hear me? I'm sure you can. Okay. I'd like to welcome all of you today. Okay, I'm trying to focus my eyes on the screen and all of you at the same time. Okay. So it's good to have you all logged in today. Okay, sorry. Can you please mute yourself? That way, we're going to have to be talking over each other.
Mm-hmm.
So can you all please mute yourself? Thank you very much. Yeah, so I said I look forward to taking you through, the steps to get to Canada as I explain the immigration part of things, okay? Once again, like John said, my name is Buki, and I'm also known as the Visa Assistant, okay? Pretty much, right? I was going to take a quick poll, right, just to see, just to know the audience I'm speaking with, okay? What you can do for me is just signify by clicking on the raise your hand bar, in the chat box. So how many of you don't know about the ways to get to Canada? Can you just click the, raise, signify your hands, okay? Just a quick poll so that, we can make this fast, because I have just like 20 minutes what they're about to just share with you. So if you don't know anything about how to get to Canada, can you just signify? Okay. All right. You can put down your hands now. Okay. If you you can put down your hand. Okay. So how many of you know how to get to Canada? You are in the express entry pool and you're just waiting for ITA. Can you also signify? Okay. All right then. Cool. And then lastly, so you can put down your hands now. So lastly, how many of you are actually stuck in the pool? So you've been in there, your score is low, you just, can't seem to be moving forward with, with the process. Can you just raise your hand? Okay, so you can put down your hands now. Thank you. All right. So for those of you who don't know anything about how to get to Canada, I will just advise you that you take a pen and paper and just come on this ride with us, just so that you can understand, some of the things we'll be discussing today. And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, you'll be able to, get quite a bit of knowledge from today's session, okay? So first things first, I'm just going to share with you what we'll be discussing today within the time. So we'll be discussing the following topics within the next 20 minutes. I hope to cover all. First, we'll see what we know about Canada. Secondly, the government immigration plan for 2020. Then thirdly, permanent immigration programs that can help you get to Canada. Then we will be talking about the economic class category with focus on the federal skilled worker program. Okay, that's what we'll be discussing today. So there's so many ways, but we have to restrict our discussion because of the timing. Okay, and the major changes that have occurred in the immigration space. But first of all, let's talk about interesting facts about Canada. Okay, so first of all, you know, this is Canada. Okay, Canada is a diverse country with 250 ethnic origins in Canada. It's the second largest country in the world, right? We have over 2 million lakes in Canada. So if you like the water, you'd love Canada. You know, our Prime Minister is Justin Trudeau, and our official languages are English and French. And our population is just 37.59 million as at last year. And that shows that for the country that is the second largest in the world, we do need people in Canada, okay? Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories to the north. Canada is known mainly for hockey, maple syrup, and the cold winter. So if you love the cold, come ahead to Canada, okay? So, these are some of our celebrities. These are people you probably know. I hope you know them, that, you know, that hail from Canada. We have Justin Bieber, Drake, and the likes, and even Jim Carrey, all hail from Canada. So that shows you that in Canada, you can actually, Canada helps you build out your real potentials, okay? So I'll go straight to our immigration levels plan. So typically what happens is that every year, the immigration minister submits an annual report to the parliament, right? With the immigration plans for the year in different categories, as you can see. So there's a federal economic and provincial territory nominees, Quebec, family reunification, refugees, and the likes. So each year, the minister is supposed to send an annual report to parliament to say, these are the amount of people we're going to admit in X year and all of that. So for 2020, Canada is expecting to take in 341,000 people in the year 2020. That's the year where we are. And you know, the highest chunk of it goes to the federal and economic and provincial nominee program, which is the first line that you can see there. As at 25th of May this year, there are currently only about 144,046, you know, 144,046 people in the pool, meaning that there's still a lot of room if you want to get to Canada. So you wonder then, okay, then how then can I, you know, move to Canada permanently? Okay, so pretty much, okay, it's very simple. Under the immigration, you know, permanent immigration program, there are 3 broad classes of migration through the permanent process. There's a family class, okay? Family class is for the purpose of family reunification. So Canadian citizens and permanent residents may sponsor their spouses, okay, or their parents or siblings or adopted kids. But that's not the discussion for today. That's just a summary of what that is. And then we have the economic class, which is the one that deals with the skilled worker program that we are discussing today, we're going to focus on today. And then lastly is the refugee and humanitarian and compassionate ground. So that's another level. It's not, but for the purpose of discussion today, we'll be focusing on the economic class, okay? For the economic class, there are four types of programs that they offer, okay? First is the Quebec Selected Workers Program, and that's handled mainly by Quebec themselves. So that's not within our purview. So what happens is that most immigration consultants outside of Quebec are not able to practice with, you know, in Quebec. So that's a separate program. Then there was the Caregiver Program, which the government ran a pilot from 2014 to 2019, okay? But that has been rested. So I guess they're trying to restructure it or find some areas of improvement for that. Then we have the Business Immigration Program that consists of the self-employed and startup visa. So for this one, this has to do with people who carry out specific economic activities, you know, in the cultural and you know, sporting activities. So like filmmakers, poets, and things like that. But that's on a different level. So if you're thinking that maybe business immigration is for someone who has just one small shop somewhere down the road and all of that, no, that's not what it's about. Okay. So for the skilled worker, right, there are 4 sections under that. I'll start from the bottom, which is the provincial nominee program. That's where you apply to a province in Canada, right, who need your occupation or who demand, you know, your services of your occupation. You apply to them directly, and then they would go through your documents and invite you. Then there's a Canadian experience class where you have students fall in. So if you're studying in Canada, you schooled in Canada, then you work in Canada, you typically going through the Canadian experience class. And these classes of people practically all the time always gets, converted to permanent residents in Canada. Okay, the federal skill trade is also part of it, but that's on another level. Okay, it's a skill type that is different from the federal skilled worker program that we'll be talking about today. But I will not dwell too much on those ones. So federal skilled worker, I'm sure you'll be wondering, okay, so who then is a, what's it called now? Who is a foreign skilled worker, right? Okay, pretty much this is a person, right, that is selected based on their ability to become economically established in Canada, all right? So if you're a graduate, woohoo, all good for you, but there are selection factors, right, or criteria, like I'll call them, that an immigration officer would assess the applicants on, okay? And these selection factors, this criteria are just two in number, right? There's the admissibility, okay? So like I said, there's admissibility, okay? And when they say admissibility, what does that mean? So it means, are you going to be allowed to come into Canada? Is there anything that's going to be against you, if you have to come to Canada? So are you going to be a security risk? Do you have any form of criminal background and stuff like that? Or do you have any health issues that can cause a burden on the health system in Canada? So those are some of the things, they will check in terms of misrepresentation. Did you forge any documentation? Did you lie about anything about yourself just to get in? So they will check that. And then the other thing they will check is something called eligibility, which is what I will be focusing on first of all. Okay, and that's very important. So for eligibility, right, that's provided in section 98 to section 83 of the Immigration and Immigration Refugee Protection Regulation. Okay, it's called the 6 selection factors. So like I said earlier on, for those of you who haven't or who don't know anything about moving to Canada, I want you to pay very close attention to this. Okay, so for the 6 selection factors, there are 6 in total, and you need to score a minimum of 67 points out of 100. Okay, minimum of 67 points out of 100. So what are these factors? Let's look at them. First of all is your age, right? You can score a maximum of 12 points for age, or also there's the work experience where you can score maximum points of 15 points. A job offer in Canada, you can score maximum points of 10 points. For education, which is quite high, you can score maximum points of 25. Then you have the language skill, okay, where you have your IELTS, CELPIP, then TEF for French. You can score a maximum points of 28 points, and that's very high, okay? And then adaptability, like I like to call it the cheat sheet, which helps you get additional points. Maximum points of that is 10 points, okay? So these are the 6 selection factors that an immigration officer will be assessing your application on. The lower your age, the higher your points. Remember that. The lower your age, the higher your points. For education, the higher your education, the higher your points, because that's what the federal skilled worker program is about. Okay? Now, yes, so let's talk about age. So, like I said to the people earlier on, right? If you have a pen and paper, you can just write this down. So for age, the maximum point you get is 12. So if you're between the ages of 18 to 35, you score yourself 12 points, okay? So as we go further, as you increase in age, you drop by 1 point. So if you're 36, that's 11 points. If you're 37, that's 10 points. If you're 38, that's 9 points, all the way down to 46, which is where you score 1 point. If you're from 47 years and above, or if you're below 18, then the score is 0, okay? So just write that down somewhere. Then if we go to work experience, so for work experience, right, to qualify, you must have work experience either in Canada or in your country, wherever you are, maybe while you were studying or while you were being self-employed, but you must have documentation to back this up because you will submit it at some point, okay? But your work experience, it could be full-time, but it has to be paid work, okay? So full-time paid work, continuous experience of 1,560 hours. So that's like 30 hours per week, okay, for 12 months at the minimum. So if you have 1 year working experience, you score 9 points, 2 to 3 years, 11 points, and then all the way down to if you have 6 or more years, you score a maximum of 15 points, and that's good. So if it's part-time work, it has to be 15 hours per week for 2 years, okay? Please note that. So if you're in this if you're in the first category that I mentioned, just take a look at your year, and then you can write down the points. So that way you can calculate your points at the end of the day to know if you're up to 67, and then you'll be eligible, and then you can actually start your process. For education, okay, I'm sorry, for job offer, which is maximum of 10 points, you need to have a job offer of at least 1 year from a Canadian employer. But what happens is usually most people coming from outside Canada do not score points in this area, because it's not so easy to get a job before you arrive. But if you are in like the IT, the tech industry, sometimes, it's actually really easy for you to do that. But whatever it is this job offer, you must get the job offer to apply before you apply to come to Canada as a federal skilled worker, because you need to provide documentation for that. Then we go to education, which is the one that has maximum of 25 points. So here, it shows you the number of points you get depending on your education. So if you have can you please mute yourself, please? It's a bit distracting. Thank you. So for secondary school, you get 5 points. For 1 year post-secondary school, 15 points. But what happens is most people usually fall within the range of 21 to 23. And that's where you have your HND, your BSc, and your master's degree program, okay? If you have a doctorate degree, fantastic. You have 25 points right there in your kitty, okay? And then for people who probably have like an HND and a BSc degree, that's 2 or more degrees that you can combine. That means you will fall under the category of people that have 22 points, okay? The next is the language skill. And this slide is what I call, what some people see as being between the devil and the deep blue sea. Okay, this is where you have to take your language test, right? So for language skill, it's a maximum of 28 points, and it's the highest of the lot, okay? For the first official language, which is the English language, there's maximum points of 24 points that you can get from there. And then if you know a second language like French, then the maximum points you can also get for that is 4, okay? To make 28 points. But what happens is that, it's divided into, the program is divided into writing, reading, listening, and speaking. Typically, most people do the IELTS exam through the British Council, okay? And you're required to score a minimum level of CLB7 in total. But trust me, CLB7 is not a good point, okay? I'll explain it to you, especially if you're not that young. If you're advanced in age, then you don't want to score a CLB7. So what happens is if you come down to this place where it shows points, it breaks it down to tell you if you get this CLB7, this is how you'll be graded. So CLB7, if you have CLB7, you'll be graded 4, 4, 4, 4. And if you add that together, that's 16. So you can only get 16 points out of 28 points. I'm kind of stressing on this slide because this is where people have a lot of issues, right? If you're able to get a CLB8 or CLB9, in this case, is 6, 6, 6, 6, and that's 24. If you understand the second language, hey, why not? I'm able to get minimum of CLB7 in French, you get another 4 points. That's 28 points. So this is the slide that is usually within your control, right? And you can try to see how much you can, push yourself to get a CLB8 or a CLB9. But for the purpose of calculation today, just calculate it as CLB7, okay? And that's 4, 4, 4, 4. That's 16 points right there. Okay. Next is the adaptability. Okay. So this adaptability, adaptability is a maximum of 10 points, not 28. Just ignore that, please. It's a maximum of 10 points, and irrespective of the 7, factors that are here, the maximum you can get is just 10. So, and they're based on different, factors. So what happens is that it's also a way for you to boost your score. So for those of you that are married, okay, try to get your spouse to also write the IELTS exams, because in that case, if they're able to get a minimum level of CLB4, okay, which is even lower, they're able to get 5 additional points for you, okay? Or those of you who have spouses or yourselves, if you have family relationship in Canada, you can also score 5 extra points on this slide. That's usually what happens, because most of the time, you will not be able to get what's it called, previous study in Canada or work experience. So those are the 2 factors that are very, common here. So if you have family in Canada and you can actually score 5 points, but trust me, this family is defined, okay? Like I said in section 83 of IRPR, they have to be living in Canada. They have to be 18 years or older. They have to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident in Canada. And these relatives could be your parents, your grandparents, your child, your sibling, your uncle or auntie by marriage, your niece or nephew. But cousins, please note, cousins do not count in eligibility. You cannot claim points for cousins in eligibility, okay? So if this applies to you, you can choose. So if you have a relationship, so fine, add another 5 points. If you have a spouse who would also be able to write IELTS, give yourself 5 points. But like I said, the most you can get from this slide is 10 points. Please ignore the 28 points there, okay? Pretty much, okay, yeah. Okay, so pretty much those are the 6 selection factors that you need to follow, right? Which is the very first step. You need to assess yourself, like I just mentioned, so I won't draw so much in that. So you need to assess your eligibility, using the 6 selection factors. Am I actually, eligible for this? Second is that you prepare your documents, right? That's where you take your IELTS, your language exams and all of that. And then you also have your results evaluated by a designated evaluation institution, okay? So they're able to determine what the equivalent of your results from your country is here in Canada. So I'll say that you should, especially if you're doing a professional course like your pharmacist, your doctor, your lawyer, please check for the, your professional body that's going to assess your, that's going to assess your, or evaluate your documentation. Because if you do not use the correct, institution to evaluate your results, you can actually shortchange yourself. So for example, lawyers, for example, have a particular body that assesses their, evaluates their results, ICAS. If you go to ICAS to evaluate your results, you'll be given the equivalent of a master's degree program in Canada. But if you go to another body, they will probably give the equivalent of a BSc in Canada. So you should change yourself by 2 points, and you need all the points you can get. Okay, then we then go to the next step, which is you create your express entry profile. That's where your points is calculated based on all the course selection factors that we have mentioned earlier on, and it's done over 1,200 points. You'll be wondering 1,200 points. How am I going to do that? No, that's not to scare you. So typically, the first 600 is based on all these factors that we've discussed. So like I've told you how to go about it. It's first 6 factors we discussed. The other 600 is based on if you have a nomination from a province in Canada. That way, that's another way of getting 600 additional points, to help you. Okay, I'm running out of time. 600 points to help you. So you need to actually find, then you also need to find what is called your NOC code. NOC code is actually like your job description, what exactly you do, okay? So, but you must make sure that whatever NOC code you choose, the job description of what you're doing right now in your country has to align with the leading statements and the duties under that job code. So if, for example, in Nigeria, right, let's say Nigeria, you're a marketer in a bank, okay? And then you go under the NOC code, you can't find anything under marketing and all of that. And then you go to the NOC code, description, and you see that maybe it's written under operations. You see that most of your duties, your job description and all of that falls under the duties described under operations manager. That is the NOC code you are meant to choose, okay? So you need to be sure that your NOC code aligns, because you need to provide that documentation later on in the process, okay? Once you've created your profile, okay, that's the 3rd step. You then enter into the express entry pool, which is the 4th step. And then when you're in the pool, that's where you actually stay to wait for ITA, that's invitation to apply, where the Canadian government will then invite you to apply to come to Canada if you're able to meet the cutoff. So usually every 2 weeks, they actually have a draw okay, it's a draw system. They actually have a draw whereby they reel out people they will select from a particular number. So they can say, okay, everyone who scored from 456 above, would be invited to apply. So that's what happens at that stage. The fifth stage or the fifth step is where you submit your document. So everything you have claimed that you have under step 3, when you create your profile, you'll be required to provide that documentation, okay? So you need to make sure that you give the accurate, information, because one of the grounds of ineligibility is misrepresentation. So once you misrepresent, you are banned from coming to Canada for, I think, a period of 10 years or thereabouts, okay? So you need to ensure that you are very open, and with what you submit in your profile. So once you submit your documentation, that's when the immigration officer goes through your documentation and all of that. And then when it's found to be correct and accurate and you're eligible, you then receive what is called a co-PR, confirmation of permanent residency. That's what people call the golden email. When you receive an email to say, you've actually qualified to come to Canada as a permanent resident. So pretty much this is what it looks like when you're in the pool. Okay, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. I'm almost done. So this is what the CRS, this is what the CRS, sorry?
I think it's Zoom bomb.
I know, right? There's just so much noise. It's distracting. Sorry. Okay, so this is what the express entry pool looks like. Okay, it shows you the CRS scoreage based on the factors that they had calculated earlier on, and it shows you the number of applicants here. I mentioned at the beginning that the government's plan is to actually have 341,000 people come to Canada this year. Okay, and if you look at it, we have just like a total of 144,000 people, which means that there's still so much room for people who are trying to come to Canada, and now is the best time to take advantage of that. Okay, so here you can see a distribution of candidates across different score grades. Okay, so once the draw is done, like I said, you'll be invited. In this case, I would probably address people who have been stuck in the pool for a very long time. You'd be wondering, okay, what can I do? Because what happens is, if the government says, oh, there's a draw and they're only inviting people from let's say 470, you would only have people from this 6,000 plus up that will be invited. And if you notice, from 401 to 450 and 351 to 400 is where you have a bulk of people just waiting. So these are people who have probably been stuck in the pool for a while, whose scores are not high, because pretty much you will not be able to move with this scores because competition is tight. So what are the ways for you to actually improve your scores if you are stuck in the pool, right? Number one is to improve your IELTS test scores. I say to people, right now, there's no BSc or MSc that you can do in 6 months. None. Okay? It's going to take you the next 2 to 4 years. So what's the immediate thing that you have control over? That's your IELTS. That's your IELTS test. Okay? And like I said earlier, don't aim for a CLB 7 because you will not get good points. Okay? Aim for a CLB 8 or a CLB 9. At least a 9, you will fall on an 8, something like that. But there's a trick about it, and it's for you to make sure that in the listening part of the IELTS score, you need to score a minimum of 8.5. There's no time for that right now. If not, I'll have shown you how that's calculated. It just changes the dynamics. If you score a normal 7 or 6.5 in listening, your score is going to be low at the end of the day. You won't believe that maybe someone who scores, like a CLB 7, maybe like now you now have your for listening, you have like maybe 6.5 or 7 or thereabout. By the time you do your calculation, you probably maybe you're on like a 412 or a 410, compared to if you have like an 8.5. Excuse me, in listening, it actually shoots up your scores to like the 420s or 430s. Okay, so you need to make sure you get a minimum of CLB, a minimum of 8.5 in listening. Also, another thing you can do is to try provincial nomination. There are 10 provinces in Canada and they have their own programs, okay? And you can get 600 additional points for going through a province that's gonna accept you. Third point is the fact that you can also try studying in Canada if you can afford it. So if you can afford it, try and find a program that you can come here to do. And what happens is that you get a work permit with your program, especially if you go to a designated learning institute in Canada. You get a work permit for the number of your program, duration of your program, okay? And what happens is that you get 50 additional points for that. So imagine if you were like 400 before, you already have extra 50 points. Sorry, for schooling, and then if you then have 2 years Canadian experience, work experience, which you will get with your work permit anyway by the time you start working, plus let's say you have a minimum of 3 years work experience from Nigeria, that's an extra 50 points. That's 100 points. Sorry, so that's already 100 points. So let's say you want 400, that's 100 points. That's already 500. Even if you now want to push it, because of course the score has never gotten to 500, if you want to push it, you can then decide to go through a province from that. But you know, that's another way to go about it if you can afford it. Okay. And then lastly, sorry, if you can try learning a new language, if you can learn French, why not? And or if you understand French good enough, you can take the TEF exam to do a French exam and then score additional points from that. Okay, so those are some of the things you should try and do right now to improve yourself instead of just staying in the pool, especially now that sorry, especially now that there hasn't been any draw in a while in that regard. But most importantly is what you need. Here's what you need to know. You need to have what is called settlement funds, aka proof of funds. So this is money that you need to show that you can take care of yourself and your family when you come to Canada before you actually settle down. This was revised recently, and this is the latest figures. So if you're just one applicant, you need to show proof of funds of 12,960 Canadian dollars. I don't know how much the exchange rate now, but it's not as high as the American one. So you just need to check that out. So up to a family of 7, this is the amount that is required. So if your family composition is more than 7, then for each additional member, you need 3,492 extra. Please note, okay, that your proof of funds must be available when you apply, when you are issued permanent residency, and please, when you land. Because we've had cases of people whereby when they get to the airport and you're required to show your proof of funds and you don't have it, you're being put back on the plane to go home. So please, do yourself that favor. Ensure that you have your proof of funds. Today is not a day to discuss how to get your proof of funds or whatever it is, but just please note that, okay? There hasn't been too many major immigration changes, but just 3. And one of it is what I just showed you, which is that there has been an increase in the proof of funds and application fees. So guys, like I always say, time waits for no one. Policies are changing, the world is changing. No one is going to wait for you. So you take the bull by the horn when you can do things, and when the fire is burning the most. Secondly, is the change in study visa for international students. So international students who will be starting this fall, okay, starting school this fall, but because of the whole travel restrictions, you're going to be in your country. They can actually start schooling online. They can do that for a period of 50% of their academic year, and then come to Canada to finish their program. And they will still get work permit for the entire duration. So if they have like a 2-year program they're meant to do, they can still be in their country to do the program for a year before coming to Canada, and then they will still get 2 years work permits when they come to Canada. And then lastly is that due to coronavirus, there has been no federal skilled worker draw since March this year. So this is the best time to actually try to improve your scores, okay? I know that British Council in Nigeria has started the online examination. I know they were doing it for academic. I'm not sure if they started one for the general IELTS now, but try to find that out. Try to take advantage of of that and improve your scores as much as possible. So for those of you who have done the calculation, try and see if you meet 67 points out of 100. If you do, then you can start looking at the next steps to start migration to Canada. Okay. Like I said, if you have alternatives, consider them. Sorry. And then if you would like, to know more about some other things later. Joan will be providing more information on that as we go on. So I will hand over to Joan to just continue the presentation. I hope I haven't taken too much time again. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. So I hope everyone can see my screen. So thank you for that, Bookie. That was awesome. And I hope that people got a lot of notes from that. I know she went through a lot pretty quickly, and we only really touched on just one option for you to move to Canada. So, I'll be talking about what you can do going forward. So the things I want to talk about now is, so you want to come to Canada, that's one thing, but that's not enough. Like, your desire to come to Canada is really not enough if you really want to thrive here in Canada. So the first thing I really want to talk about is mindset. Some people are under this illusion that, oh, Canada is the Canadian dream. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. What all I need to do is just get in. Once I get in, I'm sorted. No, you're not. There have been cases of people who've been here for 10 years and still don't have a corporate job. It doesn't mean that that applies to everyone, but what I'm saying to you is just have a reality check. Canada is an amazing country, and it really does allow a lot of people to come in here and thrive. But you need to make sure that you come with the right mindset and you're focused more on what the reality is as opposed to some dream that, maybe you've heard people say or whatever it is. The other thing I want to push on is, you have to be sure of yourself. You have to believe in yourself, because if you believe that, oh, I'm not good enough, or nobody's going to hire me because my accent is not this way, or I need to start from the bottom, well, that's what's going to happen to you. So when you're coming to Canada, make sure that you have the right mindset that, you know what, I'm coming here to have a better life, and I will have a better life. Surround yourself with positive people. I can tell you this for free. The people you hang out with when you get to Canada is going to determine how far you're going to go, because you have people who will say to you, oh, Canada, you have to go and do minimum wage job. You have to start from the bottom. You have to do factory work. You have to do all this. Okay, great. If you want to go with them, all well and good. What I'm saying to you is there's an alternative. You decide what mindset it is that you want. Be focused on why you're coming to Canada and stay true to that. Surround yourself with people who are making progress. There are a lot of people who have really, really succeeded in Canada, and those are the people that you should be listening to. Those are the people you should be taking advice from. So really, really protect who it is that you're taking advice from. And then another thing I want to say is you have to be open to change. So Canada is very different from wherever it is you're coming from. That is the truth. Even though it's a melting pot and it's meant to be like an amalgamation of different cultures, they really have a certain way of doing things. So you have to be willing to integrate. When you come here, it's not the time to say, oh, parts of the people, I'm only going to hang out with Nigerians. You're just limiting yourself. Be ready to unlearn some of those things that and be ready to learn some new things and try to integrate as much as possible. It will really, really make your life 100 times easier being here in Canada. So that's it about mindset. Just make sure that you're sure of why you're coming. You have the right mindset. You're going to be focused on why it is you're here, and also surround yourself with the right people that can help you make progress in Canada. I'm going to talk about briefly before you leave Nigeria. So I've heard a lot of people usually go into panic mode. So you've gone through the process, all the lovely things that Bookie spoke about, you've gotten your PR. What next? What do I need to bring to Canada? It's not really a lot, but things like your medical history and your professional credentials, that goes without saying. Come with that. For me, the most important thing is what Bookie touched on the last thing. Money. You need to come with savings. Yeah, you can do whatever you need to do to get your papers, but when you get here, you need to have enough savings to survive for a couple of months. If you have family and friends that you can live with, good, take it. Stay with people as long as you can until you really settle down. But not having enough money here puts people in panic mode. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to run for those, bottom of the food chain, minimum menial jobs. And then before you know it, 3 years is gone and you're like, oh my God, this was not the plan. Canada has turned into a nightmare. No, it's because you were not prepared. So make sure that you have enough savings, enough funding available before you come to Canada. If you're planning to drive, just make sure you have your driver's license, because it makes it easier for you to write the exam and do a driving test here, so that your life is very similar, so that you really, really integrate quickly. I'm also going to talk about where to live. So, for me, budget is one thing, but also proximity to people that If you're family, then it's always better to hang out with people that other family people, because you will need help in the early months when you first move to Canada. But if you're single, then maybe you just base your decision on how much money do I have, do I want to live around, because whether you like it or not, Canada is very divided. There's areas where there's the Indians, there's areas where the Jews, there's the Black people. we're kind of segregated that way. So you can decide, okay, I want to just hang out with my people. Good, but that doesn't show that you're really, really willing to integrate. So always be very, very cognizant of, where should I live? Should be based on, am I a family person? Am I single? How much money do I have? What's the proximity to the jobs? Be very, very careful that you don't go and live somewhere that is so cheap, but now it's 2 hours for you to get to work, and then you're like, oh, I can't get a job, or it's too far, I can't afford. Be very careful where you decide to choose to live. So the last thing I'm going to really talk about is jobs in Canada. It's a very touchy subject for a lot of people because a lot of people have moved here and have been surprised. I don't know why they're surprised, but they're surprised because they get here and they're like, oh, but I was a branch manager in Nigeria and branch manager here, it's really not a big deal here. So you're surprised, you're disappointed, but it's only because you did not prepare. The Canadian job market is pretty simple. There's certain areas in Canada where, for certain jobs, like if you want to go into oil and gas, there's a certain province for that. If you want to really focus on technology and financial, there's different province for that as well. So just know where it is you fit in. And, like Wookie said, there's certain skill sets, there's certain roles that in Nigeria, it has one name, but here it's a different name. Or there's certain roles that you may have been doing in Nigeria that doesn't really exist here. Or it exists, but they don't really pay well and there are not that many jobs. So before you start screaming, oh my God, I'm not going to get a job in Canada. No, that's not what I'm saying. Look at your current role. Look at the skill sets that you have. Do your research. Okay, so I'm a marketer in a bank. Are those jobs readily available in Canada? And are they high paying? If they're not high paying, do I want to bother going into that, or do I want to transition into something different? What skills and experience can I bring that I already have that translates into another role? If you cannot find another role, then okay, what new career can I even look into? What are the trainings I can take while you're in Nigeria? You can also take trainings here, but I usually advise take the trainings in Nigeria before you come, so that as you're getting here, you're already ready to go into the job market. Make sure you redo your resume so that it's a Canadian resume. It's they have a different style, a different way. Learn how they interview. Interviewing is so critical here. They expect you to laugh at their jokes. It's not all serious and all that. So you really have to understand what the Canadian culture is, how do they interview, and you find that once you do the right things you're supposed to do, it becomes easier. Your life doesn't have to go from, oh, I'm this big shot in Nigeria or Ghana, and then I come to Canada and I'm at the bottom of the food chain. No, it doesn't have to be. It all goes with the level of preparation that you do. And you also have to understand how getting a job here works. Yes, you can go online, you can apply on LinkedIn, beautiful, but hello, okay, I thought I just lost someone. But that's not the only way to get a job. They're very big on networking here, so be ready to really, really network, go to meetups, go to conferences, go to workshops, go to seminars, really get yourself in there and start to know who are the core key players in this industry or this career that I've chosen. Can I find a mentor that is now going to help me to get in the door? Because the first job is the hardest one, as it is everywhere in the world. Getting into corporate Canada is the hardest. Once you're in, then it's easier to jump around. So I'm going to leave you with, make sure that whatever career or job you're targeting is hot cake. Like, it's not a case of you go on Glassdoor and you type in, I'm looking for this job, and there's only 2 vacancies available. It's not worth your time. Make sure that whatever job you're targeting, there's loads of vacancies, because there are loads of. Make sure that you have the skill sets. If you don't have the skill sets, please take certifications. I only recommend going back to school if, maybe you're going to school to make up your points for your permanent residency, or if you're doing a brand new career, like you want to go become a doctor, you have to go to school for that. Or you want to become a film producer, you've never done that before, then you have to go to school for that. But for other jobs and skill sets, just take a quick course, take a 2, 3, 4 months, weeks course, and just get right into the job market. Have a strategy for that. Don't just hop on the plane and get to Canada and think, oh, once I get there, it's all well and good. Hey, I'm in my nirvana. No, you're not. It will turn out to be a nightmare. There's thousands and thousands of stories of people who have been here for years and still can't break into corporate Canada. So that's it for me. Just take all that we've said today, apply it, and you should have a successful transition from Nigeria to Canada. So, just in summary, just to recap, everything we've spoken about today. So know your options is very, very key. Know your options. Select the right option for you. Go ahead and apply. Do whatever it takes to apply. And don't just apply blindly. Make sure that you're doing exactly the right thing. Fix your mindset before you hop on that plane. prepare with everything that you need to come here. And whatever you do, make sure you have your career plan, because you will be surprised if you don't. So now that we've been through all of this, it's 50 minutes. I'm really trying so that you guys can have some time for Q&A. So you have three options, as with everything in life. You know, you can choose to do nothing. You might be like, okay, yeah, this is 1 hour. You know, I've had fun. We've had fun. So all well and good. Great. Thank you for watching. You might choose to, okay, I'm going to do it myself. You know, I'm going to do it myself. I can do it. You know, I've gotten all the tips I need. Great. Good. Go ahead and do it yourself. Everything we've spoken about today, honestly, you can do it yourself. But if you've been doing it yourself and it's not working, or you're stuck in the pool, or you're like, okay, I've read so much, I've paid so many people so much money, we're giving you the opportunity today to work with experts, like people who have really been doing this. We've been doing this for years now. We've helped people, we've done it ourselves. We know exactly what it takes, not just to move, but also to be successful in Canada. So you have the third option of working with experts. So for today only, like I don't do this, the offer is never going to be available again. But today only, Buki and I are offering you a combo consultation. And what that entails is you will have one-on-one sessions with us to really, really go deep into what are your circumstances, because everything we've spoken about today may not really necessarily apply to you. So in this one-on-one sessions, we'll go through, you know, what is your situation, what's your job status, what are your qualifications. We will tell you what the best option for you is. We'll come up with a plan. You have a strategy, a roadmap. Okay, this is what I need to do now. This is what I need to do next week. This is what I'm going to do in 3 months. And so you kind of know exactly where it is that you are. That's the moving part. But also when I get to Canada, what job should I now be targeting? What am I right now where I am? You know, what do I want to do when I get there? What's the gap? How do I get there? You will come up with a career plan for yourself as well. So for today only, we have this combo offer. Everything I've spoken about, one-on-one consultation, a plan for immigration and for your job integration, as well as email support for 1 week. So from this week to next week, Saturday, you can email us 50,000 times, but please do not. Or you can email us 50,000 times just to cover any single question that you have in addition to the one-on-one session that you're going to have with us. This offer is $100 US dollars, and the offer, like I said, is only valid today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you the link, and if you're interested, please go to the link. I can find my chat. Okay, so that's the link for that. So if you're interested, you know, please go in there and get started. We really don't want you to keep struggling to come to Canada. You know, we've been to Canada, we've been through the process. It's not just theory for us, we've lived it. We've helped a lot of people get in here. You know, most people that I've worked with, their first job is 6-figure. Like, and I'm not even kidding you. You know, we've done this. We know how it works. We understand exactly how the system works. So, you know, cut out all the guesswork or paying somebody who's in Nigeria sitting in a room somewhere sending you an email telling you can get a visa in 2 weeks. Work with people who have actually not just done it for themselves and their families, but have also done it for a lot of clients. So at the beginning, I promised you I was going to give you some freebies. So these are the 2 freebies that you're going to get. One is the cheat sheet, which is just everything we've spoken about today in one PDF document. So you can just look at it and, you know, like if you've chosen to work on your own, great, you know, well, good luck. We really do wish you the best. But you have this cheat sheet where you can really, really just go through it and just, you know, have I done this? Have I covered that? And be on your merry way, and we hope to see you in Canada. An additional freebie that we're giving you is how you can get your dream job in Canada. You know, so it's something that I've come up with, and you can have a look at it and just read through it and really, really start to imbibe the knowledge in there so that you can attract the kind of job that you want. You don't have to start from the scratch. I did not start from the scratch, and you don't have to. So now I'm going to throw it open for Q&A. So like I said in the beginning, please, we don't want people to unmute themselves because we don't want people speaking all over themselves. So please just go into the chat. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask those questions, and we'll answer as many as we can in the next 7 minutes. Thank you. Any questions? Which IELTS exam should we take, academic or general?
So if you're going for immigration purpose, it's going to be the general IELTS. But if you're going for a student program, then it's the academic one.
Okay. Any other questions? This is your chance to really find out anything you want to know about, moving to Canada, how you can move to Canada, or what it is you're going to do when you get here. Please, I want to know more about the caregiver's immigration plan and how do I go about getting a job offer?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier on, right? I said we're focused on the federal skilled worker program in terms of our discussion, but for the caregivers program, it was a pilot program that was run from 2014 to 2019, and it's currently being rested by the government. There's some restructuring going on because there were some issues with the initial pilot one. So until then, I don't have the information when that's going to come back. But pretty much for the caregivers program, it's pretty much about taking care of children and taking care of people who have physical or mental medical needs. That's the two classes of programs they offer there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so basically the caregiver program is on hold for now. So we have, does it matter to get, does your degree matter to get a provincial nomination for any particular occupation? Do you want to take that? Do you want me to take it?
Okay, you can take it.
So some provinces are very specific about the degrees that they want and the kind of experience that they want. So you really need to look at that particular province and see what jobs they're looking for. So some provinces it's open, but for some it really matters what kind of degree you have. Someone says, can you give a summary of the process of? So Ade, you will get a cheat sheet after the meeting today, and that will summarize everything that she's spoken about. So Murphy, we already addressed the caregiver. Caregiver is on hold for now. How do we apply for a job in Canada? Resume. So you can just Google a Canadian resume format. It's quite similar to the American format. Like it's not like it's so different, but there's just certain things that shouldn't be in there. So you can just Google that. But if you really want to work with us personally, you can purchase the offer and then we'll help you build out that resume for sure. I'm a biology graduate with 1 year experience in software engineering. But software engineering is very hot, like it's hot cake. Like there's a lot of jobs for software engineers. Like in fact, number of years of experience, okay, it's good to have some experience, but you will get a job pretty easily. So anything to do with technology is very, very good. Buki, someone says that I just completed my degree. I want to know if I can still apply without a job experience.
For the federal skilled worker program, it's for skilled workers. You need to have work experience actually to be able to apply at least a minimum of 1 year continuous work experience within the last 10 years. So you need a minimum of 1 year to be able to apply for that.
Okay. Do students visa require IELTS?
For student programs, the IELTS you'll be doing will be the one for academic, not the general one, which is for immigration.
Mm. And it's not all schools. Like some schools don't need it, but some schools do. So it depends on where you're applying to. I have a sister in Canada, but her husband is still in Nigeria. What option or plan can he leverage to join his wife in Canada? So family reunification.
Yeah, family sponsorship.
Family sponsorship. Okay, Sarah says the new caregivers immigration plan started in June 2019, so it's currently ongoing and it will run for 5 years. So Sarah, like Buki said, well, she's speaking she's a Canadian certified immigration consultant, and she's spoken from that point of view. So maybe you want to chat with her one-on-one later if you really want to know more about the caregiver program and if it's still on, because like I said from the beginning, you really don't want to spend your money paying agents who promise you heaven and earth. Meanwhile, they have no clue what it is they're doing. So, Buki, we're going to share our contact details later, so maybe you can chat one-on-one with her just to clarify that. I have a master's degree in hydrogeology with 18 months oil and gas experience. I currently run a geoscience outfit. Does my business experience years count for years of experience. So I'm guessing he's saying he's been self-employed.
Yeah, so okay, if I understand the question, because it's quite long. So he's saying that he has 18 months experience in oil and gas, and then he also has his own business. So for work experience, it's a company, you can claim points for working as self-employed as well as part of your experience. Okay, in addition to your 18 months.
Okay. There's a conflict between roles, e.g. product management versus business analyst roles. Can you speak to this? So it's more, so you need to really, really look at what exactly the job description is, because it makes it easier. And product management is so broad. Like there's so many roles under product management anyway. So it's really, really looking deep into, when you Google the job vacancies that are out there, looking at the job description and saying, okay, which one do you fit into? It doesn't really matter what the job title is or what the job name is. It's, do I have the skill sets for this? And then you tailor your resume around that. So you might be someone who's in product management, but you have experience with all those things. You can apply for all those jobs. Nothing says, oh, because your title said business analyst, you cannot apply for a product owner role, product manager role. Hope that answers your question. I'm in Ghana. How can I contact you for more guidance? Okay, we're going to share our information at the end. Okay, it's 1 o'clock now, so we're really, really going to have to end this. But like I said, if you really want to work one-on-one with us, I have that offer that I sent. I'm going to send it again. It will really make your life easy. You will know everything that you need to know, in terms of the process to move to Canada, as well as how to really, really thrive. You shouldn't be starting at anything less than a six-figure job, because you're already doing so well. You have so much experience. We're so intelligent in Nigeria. There's no reason why you should come here and have to start from the bottom. So I'm just going to quickly share our contact information, because I know that a couple of people have been asking how you can contact us. I'm just going to share that again. So this is our contact information. You can hang out with us on social media. You can ask us, DM us, whatever questions it is that you have, and we'll answer as much as we can. But it would be better if you really, really wanted to really work with us, so that we can really go deep into what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and really make this transition really, really smooth for you, because that is our goal. We really want as many people as possible to move here, and not just to move, but to also thrive when they move here. So that's it from us as 101. So Buki, I don't know if you have any final words.
Okay, nothing much from my end. Just saying thank you guys for joining us. I do hope that we've been able to help you understand the process better, for those who just want to start, and for those who are stuck in the pool. I hope we've been able to help you with some options or alternatives that you can consider. Like Joan said, you can hang out with us on social media, on our pages over there, and we'll be able to take. I'm sure after this you'll get the cheat sheets like she mentioned. And the link will also come in the email, and then we can take it from there. I hope to see you in Canada soon, okay?
Yes, we definitely hope to see you in Canada, very, 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 very soon. There's still time to get in this year. So start your application process now, and hopefully we'll see you in Canada. So thank you very much for coming. This is not the end. We're going to be running different sessions frequently. So just stay tuned. You probably get the notification via your email, so you can sign up for any of the future sessions.
You said I worked with visa assistant dream application. She was a massive help. Oh, okay.
That's awesome. So you see, that's a real life testimony right there. So make sure you reach out to us, and let's get you to Canada as soon as possible. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's nice and sunny here in Toronto, so we're going to go out and enjoy the sun as well. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.
Bye.